Welcome to It's All Geek to Me, a podcast where two friends experience popular nerdy franchises for the first time. My name is Leah, and this season my co-host Kelli and I will be traveling to a galaxy far, far away as Kelli experiences Star Wars for the very first time. And I'm the expert. Let's dive in.
Will the Force be strong with today's episode?
That's a great question.
Well, we're back, and I have officially finished watching Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope.
Yay!
And now I officially remember the name.
And there's one part I'm so excited to talk about based on something you said last episode, but we're going to wait. I'll tell you when the exciting part comes up.
Okay, so let's pick up where we left off last. We actually see our dear old friend Obi, as I like to call him, just casually walking through the Death Star. For some reason, he's not being particularly sneaky at first, and nobody seems to notice him.
Yeah, it's the Force.
He goes to this big control panel thing that really reminds me of iRobot, the movie, obviously, not the book.
I haven't seen that movie in so long. I've seen it like so many times too.
This might be a hot take, but that's one of my favorite movies of all time.
It takes a lot for me to watch a movie more than one time, and I've seen that movie at least 5 times.
That surprises me because I feel like every movie you beg me to watch, you're like, I've watched this a million times.
Well, if I like it, I've watched it a million times.
Yeah, that's true.
So iRobot is on that list.
That's incredible, actually. We should watch it together.
We should watch it together.
Can I just say before we get into this, the last time I watched iRobot, I was alone in my brother's apartment and it was on TV, so I just watched it. And literally, as soon as the end credits hit, for some reason, my brother's printer randomly turned on and printed a test page out of nowhere. I wasn't even on his computer. I don't even think his computer was on. And I was horrified.
That is horrifying. Oh my gosh. The robots are coming to life.
That's not what this podcast is about, though. So anyway, he goes to this iRobot-like control panel and he starts powering everything down. And we kind of get the next few scenes intercut with each other. So I'm just going to hop back and forth. So back to the main crew with Chewie and Hans and Leia and who else? Is that all of them?
Luke.
Oh my gosh, how could I forget about Luke?
The Luke Skywalker.
So we cut back to them real quick, and Hans is being a little bit of a butthead, and he's also being a little sexist because he's immediately like, well, I don't want to hear any more female advice, which is so rude. What does that have to do with being a girl? Her advice was good anyway, but they're kind of like going back and forth.
Yeah, like what was their other option? Get killed by blasters.
Seriously. And then Chewie gets freaked out by a noise that he hears, which I'm guessing is some sort of monster creature. I don't know. It's not really well explained. And then Hans is like, oh, don't worry, I'll shoot him. And then Leia's like, no, don't shoot him. They're going to hear your blaster. He shoots him anyway. And then Leia is pissed. And she's like, I don't know how things work where you're from, but around here, I am a freaking princess and you're going to have to listen to me. So I really liked that. I don't understand why she was even letting him for a second be so disrespectful. She's literally royalty. So I don't know what was going on there.
She did make fun of Chewie though. She said, get this walking carpet out of my way.
Oh, and I thought that was so mean because Chewie was still a little rattled by whatever scared him. And it's not really his fault that he's furry.
Could it have been the monster that grabbed Luke that they were scared of?
Oh, maybe it was. Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
That's what I think, yeah.
You know what? It's funny because the way that we watch these in different sections, I always feel like there's a big pause between them, even though we watch them all in one day.
Yeah.
But I still feel like there's this big pause. So I almost kind of forget what happened previously, or I think it happened a while ago. So yeah, it just happened. But yeah, you're right. It was probably the monster. So then we also see Obi still kind of powering things down, and he's being a little sneakier now. There are stormtroopers passing by, and he's hiding from them as he powers things down. The stormtroopers are having their own little conversation about whatever it is that stormtroopers talk about. And Obi uses the Force to distract them for a second, and then he can run away. Which, again, I don't understand how they didn't see him, especially when they turned around and they were like, oh, it was nothing.
The Force is strong with him.
Yeah, I guess the Force is pretty strong with him. So then we see that the droids are in the ship, and Princess Leia and Han and Luke, wow, I almost forgot him again, are looking over and they see the ship and Princess Leia's like, you came in that? Yikes.
Making fun of the ship again. Love it.
Everyone's ripping on the ship. And then they have to, I don't know, they have to get on the ship and for some reason Han decides to just run into a room full of stormtroopers. I'm guessing to distract them? Is that what he was doing?
Yeah, I think so. He's just being, courageous. And I gotta say it, there's something sexy about the way Han runs when he's like shooting his gun and like running through.
Okay, I was not noticing that.
I'm a fan. I was.
Of course you would. So then we have like a little battle going on. There's some shooting. The gang splits up. So it's Chewie and Han are in one side and Leia and Luke are on another side. And Leia and Luke actually kind of get cornered where they go into this, I don't know if it's a room or hallway or whatever, but it's kind of like a plank and there should be a walkway across to the other side, but there isn't. And they don't know how to get across. Although conveniently, Luke later finds out that he has a grappling hook and just uses that.
I literally wrote, Luke conveniently has a grappling hook.
I literally wrote, Luke conveniently has a grappling hook. I love that we both did that.
Oh my gosh. But before the grappling hook, I actually have a question for you because I'm curious if you are familiar with this. Do you know what the Wilhelm scream is?
No.
So it's this scream. I can't remember the origin of it. I could be wrong, but I think it was something that was heard in an old Western film that then has been sort of clipped and used very often in media. And it's become like the most famous scream that is heard in film. And it's used pretty often throughout the Star Wars universe. If you know what it sounds like if you look it up on YouTube and you hear it, you'll start hearing it when it happens, because it happens a lot throughout this trilogy, but it happens here.
Like a woman scream?
No, it's a man scream. It's like a wah!
Oh.
But it happens
that was really
here.
good.
No, that's not what it sounded like at all.
If our audience wants to briefly pause and listen to it, I'll do this.
Yeah, you should listen to it.
I didn't like it. It's kind of, I don't know why it kind of grosses me out a little bit. Like it's almost like a guttural scream, you know? Like it's like, ah!
Yeah. But it's used here when Luke and Leia are shooting at the 3 stormtroopers that are up on the bridge on top of them. When one of them falls, you hear the Wilhelm scream. Mm-hmm. I was curious if you knew what it was, but now if you really pay attention, you may hear it throughout the trilogy because it does happen fairly often. And honestly, you may hear it other places. I actually heard it in something I was watching yesterday.
That's weird. Wow. Okay.
Just a little film trivia that this scream has been heard. The scream that's been heard throughout the ages of film.
You know what they should do? Every time that scream is used, instead they should use the SpongeBob guy who's like, my leg.
Wait, that's actually a great idea. That would be better.
Okay, we'll do that in our Star Wars remake.
My leg.
Well, now I'm wondering if you noticed, this is just a segue, I know you noticed, that Leia gives Luke an incredibly awkward kiss after he uses his grappling hook, and she says for good luck.
Yes, I did notice that.
Really awkward.
It was really awkward.
Not a huge fan of that first kiss there. And then the droids are waiting in the ship and C-3PO's like, where are they? I'm kind of freaking out right now. And then we cut to Obi-Wan. And I'm using his full name here because he looks so freaking cool in this moment with his hood up and he's got his lightsaber, but it's not lit up. And he's just like walking into the room slowly. And then Darth is there with his lightsaber. And I was like, this is what I thought Star Wars was going to be. And I'm not disappointed in what it ended up being, but like, this is what I'm here for. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So you weren't disappointed in the battle?
No, I would go as far as to say that was probably the most exciting part in the movie for me.
Oh, good. I was nervous because as far as lightsaber battles go, this one is probably ranked the worst.
Really? Okay. I actually thought it was really cool. And I don't know if it was the CGI, but I feel like I noticed a little bit that Obi-Wan's lightsaber seemed to be a little bit weaker than Darth's.
Yeah, I noticed that as well.
Let me start from the beginning here. So they approach each other. They have their awesome moment. So I will say, I don't really like battles in movies, and the later, very, very long scene in the ships so boring. But this was cool.
I don't think I wrote a single note, honestly, on that battle.
I actually wrote down, can't give a play-by-play here, no clue what any of this means.
There's no reason to, yeah.
It was just, that's when you told me, oh, don't worry, we'll only do a couple episodes. A lot happens, but it's just mostly battle. I was like, oh, this is what she was talking about.
Yeah.
But no, this scene to me was awesome. This was the first lightsaber battle I've seen. But Darth is like, oh, the circle is complete now because the last time I saw you, you were teaching me, but now I'm the master. And Obi says, yeah, the master of evil. And I was like, oh, burn. Absolutely loved that. So then they start fighting. And like I said, I think that, I don't know if it was like just the CGI or maybe I made this up in my mind, but it did seem to me like Obi's lightsaber seemed to be flickering like a little bit more. And I was getting nervous. And Darth seemed pretty confident in that moment because he was like, you shouldn't have come here. Which also, I don't know what it is about that line. Whenever in any movie, film, TV show, book, whatever, when somebody says you shouldn't have come here, I am enthralled.
Yeah.
There's just something like awesome about it.
You're using awesome a lot.
Oh no.
Awe-inspiring. If you watch season 1, you know what Kelly feels about awesome.
Okay, it's not necessarily awesome. It's just a cool thing to say, and it engages me a lot more. Like, it gets me hyped up because I'm like, uh-oh, something crazy is about to happen.
It's very threatening.
Yeah, it's very threatening, yeah. So then the main crew meets back up, though actually for a second, Han says to Chewie, and he's like, should we just dip out of here without them? Although, again, 0% tension because then they immediately show up and they're like, hey, what did we miss? So guess that's not gonna happen. So then the stormtroopers run off and the crew's like, oh, there's our chance. We can run onto the ship. And the droids are like, oh, here's our chance. Let's run off the ship. So they run off the ship. The crew starts running on the ship. They run into each other and they're like, hey, what are you doing here? And then they turn around and they see the lightsaber battle.
Yeah.
So then everyone, the stormtroopers, the crew, everyone's running over to see the lightsaber battle between Darth Vader and Obi-Wan Kenobi. And let me tell you, I am very engrossed in this moment. And then Obi looks up, makes eye contact with Luke, and then lets Darth kill him, question mark? I don't think he's really dead. That's what I'm going to say. I don't think he's dead. I think he disappeared with his magic power. Because, I mean, that was too unremarkable of a death to be a real character death, in my opinion. What are your thoughts?
Well, he's been speaking to Luke often in his head.
Yeah.
Do you think that's him alive, or do you think that's maybe a power of the Force beyond the grave?
Well, see, that's where I was a little conflicted trying to decide, is he actually talking to him, or is that just the Force talking to him and it kind of comes in the form of Obi? But I don't think that he's dead. I don't think he's dead. I feel like we would have seen like a slow-mo shot of him being like, Luke, will avenge me. You know what I mean? I just don't think he's dead. I don't believe it. I'm sorry. He's not dead.
Okay.
Oh no, he's dead, isn't he? Oh.
The thing is, I don't want you to get your hopes up and think he's coming back.
Oh my gosh, he's dead?
He is dead. Yeah.
What if I just burst into tears right now? What would you do?
I would probably keep laughing.
Wow, he's really dead though?
Yeah, I do agree that it was like a pretty unremarkable death, but
Get out of
with
town.
the power of the Force, he can still talk beyond the grave. So we may see him again just yet.
Get out of
But he is
here. Are you
dead.
serious? That was his death? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was a pretty bad
I'm
death.
shaken up.
I agree.
I'm going to take a 15-minute recess.
Yeah, the death was interesting. The fact that he disappeared, but that's like a thing we see with Jedi throughout the series as well, that their bodies
Just disappear.
when they die. Yeah.
Okay, well, I was going to say, Luke really overreacted in this moment, but I guess he just properly reacted then. Because he screams like, no! And I thought, knowing the spoiler that I know, that he's like, Luke, I am your father, I thought that he was going to say that then. Although thinking back now, that wouldn't have really worked very well.
If he just turns to him and he's like, hey, Luke, by the way, I'm your dad.
Hey, no, you know me? I'm your dad. Which I actually forgot up until this moment. So now remembering the conversation where Obi was like, oh, Darth Vader Vader betrayed and murdered your dad. I guess he kind of betrayed the crew and became Darth Vader. I don't know. But you know what? I'm sure we'll find out in the future.
You'll find out.
Yeah.
You'll find out.
So then obviously Luke draws the attention of the stormtroopers, so everyone starts shooting. Luke starts shooting. He wants to avenge Obi. And everybody runs onto the ship and they're like, Luke, come on. And he's still shooting, but they eventually get him on. So thank goodness. They start up the ship. They fly off. And Luke is really sad. And I wrote down, Luke is sad for no reason because Obi's not dead. But as it turns out, Obi is dead. And now I am feeling a little bit like Luke right now, where I'm just a little needlessly sad.
This is not a Gandalf situation. This is a true death.
Yeah. Well, you know what? That's what you said about Gandalf too. So I don't know. Maybe you're lying to me.
No, I'm telling you the truth this time.
Not me just waiting 9 movies for him to come back.
It may not be the last that we see him. We may see him again, but he is dead.
My heart's broken. I don't know. Well, anyway, unlike you, Leia wants to comfort him by giving him a blanket, which I don't know where my blanket is. I need to be comforted.
I don't have a blanket. I'm sorry.
And he's like, I can't believe he's gone. And of course I wrote down he's not. And Leia actually says kind of a mirror of what Obi says to him when his aunt and uncle are killed. Because she says, there's nothing you could have done. Which at first I thought was interesting. And then I was like, wait, I feel like that's just a thing that people say. So maybe it's not really like symbolism. I'm just trying to find symbolism in everything.
It could just be bad writing too.
So Han comes in and he's like, it's not over. We still got to shoot down some bad guys. And Luke follows him and he gets into this gun contraption thing and very conveniently knows how to work it, and not only how to work it but how to work it very well, which is weird for a farmer.
Well, he was a pilot.
And did they have guns?
Yeah, because then later he says like, oh, I used to shoot wombats or something like that. I don't know if they were called wombats.
Wombats.
So yeah, they did have guns.
Okay, all right, fair. So the ship is getting a little bit of damage from the bad guys that are shooting at them, but Han says that she'll hold, and they do manage to shoot down the bad guys. It's like a whole long scene, but the gist of it is they shoot down the bad guys, and then C-3PO is like super dramatic. He's like in a pile of wires and he's like, oh, I'm melting, I'm dying, and it's like over. So
this is all your fault. And he blames R2.
So then we cut back to Darth Vader and he says that the good guys, are in hyperspace right now, and Tarkin says that there's something about a tracking beacon. I didn't write down the exact conversation.
Homing beacon, and that they're tracking the ship. Yeah.
And then we cut back to Leia and she's like, why do you think that was so easy? They let us go, they're tracking us. So again, no tension. They immediately know that they're being tracked. And Han is like, no, we're not being tracked, it's fine. And she's like, no, we're definitely being tracked. And then he basically says he's done with this mission. He doesn't care about the Rebel Alliance. He doesn't care about any of this. He just wants his money so he can go home. And Leia is not pleased with him at all. And then we have a very weird conversation. I'm sure you have a lot of thoughts on this.
I'm curious your thoughts on this conversation.
I'm curious your thoughts. So Leia's like, if money is all you love, then money's all you'll get. And then she storms off, and then she runs into Luke on the way and she's like, forget this dude, he stinks.
Yeah, something about his mercenary showing his colors. I don't know, something like that. I don't remember.
And then Luke sits down and he's like, so what do you think of Leia? And Han is like, I'm trying not to think of her, honestly. And then they kind of go back and forth, and Han is like, do you think she's into me? And Luke is like, no. Oh, don't say that.
No, sir.
So yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, it seems like a little love triangle might be brewing.
Oh my gosh, really? That's not what I was thinking at all.
What did you think?
I don't know. I thought that it was just like a one-off moment where he was just like making conversation. I didn't think that Han was into her. Is he? Oh my gosh. Well, you know what? If my very outlandish theory that Luke and Leia are siblings, then maybe her and Han will end up together.
Do you like Han as a love interest?
I mean, I don't know how old all these people are. He seems like he's a lot older than Luke.
Talking actor-wise, he's definitely significantly older than them. Do you want a little fun fact about some behind-the-scenes information that Carrie Fisher herself revealed?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Wait. Is there relationship drama?
Yes, there is.
Oh my gosh. Tell me.
So, Carrie Fisher and Harrison Ford had a love affair during the filming of this movie.
Oh.
They had their little love affair for just this movie, and they remained like lifelong friends. But she did say if she could go back, it would have made more sense for her and Mark Hamill to be in love than for her and Harrison Ford.
Who's Mark Hamill? Is that Luke?
That's Luke. Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
But the three of them all had like a lifelong friendship, so.
And a lifelong confusing love triangle, it sounds like.
Well, I mean, I don't think anything ever happened between Mark and Carrie, but they were besties.
Okay.
She released a tell-all memoir right before she passed away.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's a little intense.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Well, anyway, aside from that sordid love affair, we find ourselves on another planet, which I actually wrote down was an Earth-like planet, but to be fair, I think all of them were kind of Earth-like.
Yeah, some of them are. Like, Tatooine is just, a desert planet.
But I live in the desert now, so I think it's fair to say it's Earth-like.
But this planet is called Yavin.
Yavin. Okay. Yeah, I didn't write that down. I didn't think it was that important, but I guess...
It's not.
Oh, no?
It doesn't matter.
Okay. I guess none of the names matter. But they land on this planet, and it looks like this is a big ol' rebel planet, which also, I just have to note that it's pretty funny how, like, there's full planets dedicated to this stuff. Like, it's hard enough to get a whole country on board with something, but in this world, it's just like, yeah, that planet's all rebels.
Yeah, I wonder how big the planet is.
I was just thinking they must be tiny.
Yeah.
So Leia runs into a guy who she refers to as Commander. I don't know if we got his name, but he meets up with her and he's like, oh my gosh, when we saw what happened, we thought the worst. And she's like, oh yeah, I'm alive.
We'll grieve later.
Yeah. And they look at the Death Star plans, and it turns out that Leia was right. They are being tracked. So the Empire knows where the rebel base is. So we go to the rebels. They are analyzing the plans, and the guy who's like running the meeting calls her Princess Leia. And I was like, oh my gosh, Leia, our co-host.
Yeah. There actually was a time earlier in the film where Tarkin referred to her as Princess Leia as well. I feel like it was a little harder to gauge because he has a British accent, but I always like to point that out, that there were a couple instances where she was referred to as Leia, not Leia.
Which is funny because there's so many instances where you're referred to as Leia.
Yeah, exactly. But I honestly think it's just like having a bad script supervisor on set and nobody really knowing what the heck was going on with this film.
You know what, actually, now that we bring up the Leia versus Leia, it's kind of funny to me that all of these people live on different planets, but they all speak American English with no accent, or with an American accent, I guess I should say.
Yeah.
And also, everyone's white.
Makes so much sense, doesn't it?
Yeah. Just across multiple planets, everyone's a white English-speaking American.
Yes, totally true to life.
How very convenient.
Which I'll talk about this more like later in trilogies, but there is one problematic thing with like a section of the Star Wars fandom, and that is racism within the fandom. When they do introduce actors of color into the fandom, the upset that exists online is truly disgusting. But I'll speak about that more specifically when we get to the third trilogy.
Well, you know what? I hate to say it, but we're nearing the end of 2022 and we're coming across that now with a children's movie.
Yeah.
So I can't say I'm surprised. Definitely disappointed, but not surprised.
Yeah, with The Little Mermaid.
Yeah.
To have a little tangent on this, I was watching the other day like a compilation of little girls watching the trailer in like wonder and being like, Mommy, look, she looks like me. She looks like me. And just having these like big eyes and just like looking so excited. And I'm like, isn't this what we want? This is so cute. This is so cute.
Yeah, that's why representation is important.
Yeah, because like these little girls see that and they like are excited by it, so.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm sure we'll discuss that. You said it comes up later, so I'm sure we'll have a conversation about it.
Yeah, for sure.
Good. I'll tuck that away for now, and we'll come back to it. We'll just put a little pin in it for now.
Yes.
But anyway, so speaking of old white guys who look like Obi-Wan Kenobi, this guy is analyzing the plans and he is telling the Rebel Alliance how to destroy the ship, which I didn't write down because he was just talking, you know?
Basically, there is a little exhaust port that is about 2 meters wide. And if you can get a missile or some sort of torpedo into that little section, it will set off a chain reaction that will blow up the entire Death Star.
Oh, maybe I should have paid attention. Okay.
You're like, words, battle.
Yeah. So then he sends them all off and he says, "May the Force be with you," which I was so excited about. So that's the first time it comes up in the movie, but it's not the last. So very excited. So are these people aren't Jedi?
No, they are not Jedi. The Jedi don't exist anymore.
Okay, but is the Force with them then? I don't know.
I still think that people who believe in the Jedi religion will still talk about the Force, but they themselves aren't Jedi because you can't be a Jedi unless you're trained by a Jedi.
Okay, so then Han is leaving, it turns out. He's got his reward and he is off. And Luke is very upset with him. And Han tries to explain it away and he's like, "Listen, I gotta pay off some debts. I'm out of here. I don't really care about what's going on here." And he also goes as far as to say that he thinks it's a suicide mission. So he just doesn't think it's worth sticking his neck out for. And Luke is really upset with him. And he's like, "All right, bye. I'm out then." And then Han is like, "Wait, Luke." And Luke turns around and he says, "May the Force be with you." So I guess they're on good terms, but Luke is still not thrilled with him, which neither am I. I mean, I guess I shouldn't have expected it, but it's definitely disappointing that he doesn't want to try, but he redeems himself later. Don't worry.
Yeah.
So then Luke shares again that he misses Obi. And again, I wrote down for no reason because he's still alive. Cannot stress enough how much I thought he was alive still.
Well, he's always with him because the Force is with him.
Oh my gosh. I'm surprised you didn't start crying.
No crying, no.
So then Leia kisses him again, and it's less awkward this time.
This was a better kiss. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely not as awkward. And then Luke runs into one of his pals, Biggs. And I wrote, "He's gonna die, LOL." And he did, right?
He did, yeah.
Yeah,
as soon as he was like, "We'll talk all about it when we get back."
That's when I wrote it down, actually. As soon as he said, "Oh, we'll talk about your adventures when we get back," I was like, he is going to die.
Yep.
100% chance of death.
Pretty much everybody died except for Luke and Han.
Yeah, that's what I wrote down. Okay, I'm glad I didn't fully zone out during that part. But then Luke is getting into his ship and he's bringing R2-D2 and the crew is kind of setting him up and they're like, "Hey, your R2 is a little beat up. Do you want a new one?" And Luke is like, "Absolutely not. This guy's my pal. We've been through a bunch together. So no, pack him on up. He's coming with me," which I loved. I thought that was really cute. Yes. And then even C-3PO says a little cute thing where he's like, "Oh, R2-D2, you got to come back because I don't want my life to be boring. And it is boring without you," which I thought was cute.
So cute. It was cute, yeah.
So then it is time for everyone to fly off and the Death Star is approaching. So a lot of stuff is happening at once here. I started kind of doing a little bit of a play-by-play of what was going on. So we have C-3PO and Princess Leia and the commander all watching on what I assume is just a big computer screen hologram situation. And the rebel ships are lined up. They have their plan to destroy the Death Star. And the Death Star is approaching and they're getting ready to blow up the entire planet. So all of this is happening at once. And the good thing on the Rebels side is that their ships are so small that they're actually evading the Death Star lasers. So Darth Vader says we have to take out the ships one by one. So they get some pilots into their little ships and then that's when the real fighting ensues. And then at this point I wrote down Luke keeps on hearing Obi's voice guiding him and I wasn't sure at that point if that was just kind of like the Force giving him vibes in the form of Obi's voice or if that was actually him. Yeah, so the enemy ships are approaching, the rebel ships are getting knocked down, and then I did write down on their helmets is one of your tattoos.
Yeah.
Is your other tattoo the Death Star?
The Death Star, yeah. So my motivation with that was basically I wanted one good tattoo and one bad tattoo. So the
Rebel Alliance symbol was the good guys, and then the Death Star was the bad guys.
Ah, okay. I always thought that they were just both symbols of the bad guys.
No.
So that's pretty cool. This was also the point where I just wrote down, it's really hard to give a play-by-play of what's going on because it's just like battle. People are dying. Ships are getting blown up.
Essentially, what was going on was that it seemed as though the rebels were going down into the Death Star to this exhaust port in teams of 3. So you had the leader that was going to shoot the torpedo, and then the 2 that were going to distract in the back. But each ship is just getting blown out, getting blown out, getting blown out. And then you finally did get a team where the leader was able to shoot the torpedo, but he missed. And then we've got Luke, Biggs, and Wedge, and they're the last 3 left. And it's basically up to them to hit this. And Luke is the leader, and he's the one that's got to do the hit.
And Darth Vader himself actually hops into one of the ships, and he is firing away. I believe he was actually the one who killed Biggs. Correct?
Yeah.
So, while this is all happening, we are also getting a countdown to how soon they can blow up the rebel planet. And at one point, Tarkin gets approached by one of his people, and they're like, oh, there's a chance we're going to get destroyed. Do you want me to set up like an evacuation thing for you? And he's like, in our moment of triumph? Absolutely not. So I thought that was like interesting that he was so bold and confident that he was going to be right that he didn't even want to consider a backup plan. So I'm assuming he got killed when he did
get
up.
killed.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, like you said, one of the rebels shoots the Death Star, but it only hits the surface. And basically everybody dies except for Luke. And then he hears Obi's voice tell him to use the Force. And he turns off his computer that shows him like how to aim. And back on the base, they're like, oh no, he turned off his computer. What's wrong? And he's like, it's fine. Trust me. Because he is going to use the Force to guide him. And we actually hear Darth say, the Force is strong with this one, which is another phrase that I've heard a lot.
Yeah.
So I was very excited to hear that. Oh, R2-D2 also gets shot at this point.
Oh yeah, he's toast.
And we also find out that the rebel base is now in range to be destroyed. So it's either a kill or be killed situation right now. And it is all up to this final moment. And guess who comes to the rescue?
Da, na, 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 na. No, sorry. Who comes to the rescue?
It's Han Solo. Yay. So he's shooting at Darth and his men, and he knocks out the guys on either side of Darth. And then the Death Star gets blown up. So Luke is successful. And thank you for the sound effect.
You're
and
welcome.
Darth flies away in his little mini ship.
Whee!
And then Luke lands back on the rebel planet, and everyone is celebrating. And I actually thought it was really cute when him and Leia hug, and then they have Han come over and they hug, and it's all really happy. And then they're like, oh no, poor R2-D2. And they pull him off, and he is damaged, but he can be repaired, so he's going to be fine.
And C-3PO's like, I'll donate parts.
Yeah, I thought that was really cute. So they are definitely like besties, and I appreciate that. Out of the two of us, which one of us would you say? Actually, I already know. Which
You're
one of us is
C-3PO.
C-3PO?
Just because he's always so down.
Fine, I guess you're R2-D2 then. So then I guess we cut to like a little moment in the future where there is this big ceremony, and Luke and Chewie and Han go up to Princess Leia, who's looking absolutely gorgeous, by the way. I love her in this moment.
Yeah,
and
she looks great.
Now I was like, okay, I get it now because she doesn't have those stupid buns in.
Yeah, luckily those buns never come back.
Oh, really? Oh, that's so great to hear. Okay, good. Yeah, because she really looked gorgeous in that one clip at the end here, and she gives them all medals. And now that you've mentioned the love triangle situation, there was some smiles exchanged between Han
Lots of
Solo.
smiling.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, there was smiling, but there was like a moment. You know when there's like a moment?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There was a moment between all of them. So there's just like a little moment.
Little love
situation.
triangle.
And we also see that R2-D2 is fixed. And then Chewie turns around and he roars. I don't know why it's so funny.
Yeah, I thought it was funny too.
And then everyone just starts cheering. And then that's it. And I literally wrote, that's it.
Yeah.
I don't know why I thought that there would be more, like at least a setup for the next movie.
So with this movie, I actually don't know if there was any plan for a second movie, if I'm being totally honest.
That's what it seemed like to me. It seemed like this was like a standalone film.
I think it was. And then because of the hype that it received, because we didn't see Darth Vader die, but he kind of like twirled off into the distance.
Flew
and
off.
Before it was mentioned that those little ships were short range ships. So it's like in the world, where could he have gone to?
Yeah, where's he gonna go?
Yeah, so I think that this wasn't a plan to be as big as it became.
Oh my gosh. Things that I thought were going to happen in this movie that did not happen at all. Thing number 1, Darth Vader being like, Luke, I'm your father. Where's that?
Well, it is a trilogy.
Thing number 2, Princess Leia and Luke don't even hook up. So what's going on with that?
I guess you'll have to find out.
And thing number 3, there's not even like a moment where he goes back to his home planet. And like, you know, you think of the arc, right? Of the hero arc, right? So you have the reluctant hero, and then there's the inciting incident. He decides that it's time to go on the hero's journey, and then the journey happens, and then at the end of the hero's journey, he comes back and nothing has changed, but he has. So where was that?
I don't know.
Why am I worked up about this? I don't know.
Yeah, I thought the ending was a little interesting. Like, if you think about, not to compare it to the greatest trilogy of all time, The Lord of the Rings, but in The Lord of the Rings, you do have those like 50 false endings that happen, but in that you do get that resolution for all the characters. In this one, if you're thinking it's just a standalone film, you're like, okay, then it just ends with this like weird award ceremony and then like nothing else happens.
Yeah. Well, honestly, I have to say, I did enjoy it. Let me just put that out there. I thought it was fun. It was absolutely by no stretch what I thought this movie was going to be about, what I thought it was going to look like, how I thought the characters were going to act. Regardless, I liked it better than I expected to because I thought it was going to be a little bit more rigid and a little bit less humorous. So I did appreciate that.
Yeah, it's pretty funny, I would say.
But I am very grateful that there are more films because I'm just sitting here like, okay, but what's going to happen?
Yeah, what's next?
Yeah. So I'm almost wondering, maybe you've trained me to expect these like 5-hour long movies where so much happens, because I feel like, I mean, yes, a lot happened, I guess, relatively speaking, but really not that much happened.
No, with this movie, really not a lot happens. And if you think about how, like, the span of it, it was probably the span of like a few days that this whole movie took place.
Yeah, I think that was something that also threw me off too, because like talking about The Lord of the Rings, that took like a year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and this is just like, all right, 2 days ago, this kid was a farmer with his aunt and uncle, and now he's in love with this princess and he's getting awards and he's like a part of the rebel army. Okay, what happens next? What about the Rebel Alliance? What about the Empire? Like, we don't get any resolution yet. And then we also don't get any setup for what's going to happen next. So I don't even know. I don't know why I'm getting so worked up. I'm sorry.
I love that you're getting worked up.
But I don't know what to even predict
for
the next episode, because I'm like, literally, they haven't even given us a hint of what could possibly come next.
Well, I mean, the No, I Am Your Father has not happened yet, so that has to happen. I did mention that this was one of the worst lightsaber battles of all time, so there will be more lightsaber battles.
Honestly, very hyped for those.
Maybe some Jedi training. We haven't even met Yoda yet.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. That was another thing on my list. Where the heck is Yoda? Where is he? And also, where's Boba Fett? And we also never found out what happens with Jabba. Does he get his money? Is he going to leave Han alone? Who knows?
These are all good questions for the future.
Okay, well, I guess we'll have to find out next week.
Yeah, we will have to find out next week when we dive into episode 5, whose name I always forget.
Oh my gosh. Wait, should I make a guess?
Yeah.
I know there's one called The Empire Strikes Back. Is that going to be this one?
That's it. Yes, that's it. The Empire Strikes Back.
I know something you don't know about Star Wars. You have tattoos and you don't know?
I don't know why I always forget this one.
Wow, that's the only Star Wars name I think I would ever know without Googling.
That's actually wild.
That's so crazy, because I was just thinking, like, I imagine at some point the
Empire has to strike back. Yeah. So that's a good prediction.
All right, well, we'll see you guys next week, and we will see the Empire striking back. So, see you then.
Bye.
You've been listening to the It's All Geek to Me podcast, hosted by Leah and Kelly. Make sure to hit subscribe in your favorite podcast player and give us a rating. You can also follow us on Twitter at All Geek Podcast. New episodes drop every Thursday. See you next week.